Hello, this is Erica Daniels, owner of Child Counseling Place, and you're watching episode 3 of Interviews on My iPhone, where I talk to local mental health professionals in order to decrease fears and barriers to seeking mental health services. Like I said, these interviews are on my iPhone, so sometimes the lighting or audio is a bit funky, but I really want these videos to be natural and genuine, so you can see how these therapists and these office settings are in real life, not staged. You'll be able to access these videos on my website, childcounselingplace.com/interviews on my iPhone, and on Facebook at facebook.com/childcounselingplace. Enjoy.
Hello, I'm Erica Daniels, and I'm a clinical counselor and the owner of Child Counseling Place. You are watching or listening to Interviews on My iPhone, where I go behind the scenes with local mental health professionals to show you what's available to you and also to try to break down barriers to seeking mental health services. Today, I'm in Lebanon, Ohio with Jen Wade, the owner of Kairos Christian Counseling. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell us about Kairos Christian Counseling and the services you offer?
Yes. Kairos Christian Counseling, I opened the practice in 2014 on a part-time basis. And in 2016, I felt led to leave my full-time job and open the practice up full-time. My practice is based on Christian principles and biblical principles, so many people are looking for that,
Yes.
as well as clinical,
Yes.
because I'm clinical, but yet I have a Christian background. And so I really like combining the two, and I found that a lot of people are looking for that, so it's been a real blessing.
I agree. I've had a lot of clients who will ask about faith-based counseling, and so I think that there are people who are seeking those services.
Yes, definitely, and it's fine because when you are looking at your core values as a person, and you're wanting direction within those core values, and they know what position you're coming from. I just think there's a lot of congruency there, and I like the fact that I pray with my clients. They want me to pray for them. In fact, I start each session off with a prayer, and I end each session with a prayer.
Okay.
Sometimes even in between, depending on what we need. But it's wonderful. I love it, and I love my clients, and I'm just happy to be here.
Now, what's the age range of clients you see?
I only see adults, so I see people from 18 on up, however high. I refer for children. I will do some family counseling that involves children, but the majority I really just feel called to see adults.
Okay. Now, I think, especially here in Lebanon, there's like a big outpatient community mental health center. I think a lot of people are probably familiar with that type of setting where there's this like big community health mental health center, and people go to that, and they might have different locations, but this is a private practice.
It is.
So can you kind of touch on the differences and maybe some similarities?
Well, I think the differences is that I'm a sole proprietor, which means I'm the only person in my practice. And if you go to a community mental health center, and there's a real place for them. You know, people are looking for case management services, just, they need help with their daily living skills. But that's not what this practice. This practice is strictly for outpatient therapy, and that's what I focus on. But a community mental health center is obviously bigger. Sometimes there's a lot of turnover, just because it's a big agency.
Right.
But they certainly offer an array of services, and I know that one benefit is they do have some sliding fee scales, and they are paneled in a lot of insurances, and so there's a benefit there. But a community mental health center is not allowed to in any way practice any faith-based counseling, because the state will not regulate that. In fact, if you end up what they call proselytizing in your sessions, you actually could lose your license as a community mental health center. So that's where we would differ in terms of my practice in a community mental health center.
We don't want you losing your license.
Well, no, I mean, I can do it here.
Right, I know.
But, there, if you know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but now with a client, however, the other side, if a therapist is a Christian and they come to a community mental health center and the client wants to engage in some talk about biblical principles, then the therapist is meeting them at their need.
Okay.
And that wouldn't be considered proselytizing or, trying to convert them or something like that.
Okay. So this is, like we've been saying, this is a faith-based
It is.
practice,
Mhm.
biblical Christian practice.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, and maybe how that might differ from an outpatient practice that isn't faith-based.
Okay, basically, I'm not going to counsel anything that goes against biblical principles.
Sure.
So, like, for instance, I'll just give an example.
Mhm.
Maybe some people are very comfortable with premarital sex, and but in my practice, if a couple comes and says, well, we want to engage in premarital sex, well, I would talk about the biblical principles and speak out against that.
Okay.
And that's because, again, I have a standard. That standard's the Bible.
Mhm.
And if they don't want to go by that standard, they'll see me. You know what I mean? So when people know when they're coming to me, they know what my standard is and
Mhm.
where ethically I can go with them.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of an example. Sometimes in more private practice where maybe you don't have that Christian principle, it's more open as to different choices you might have. Whereas I'm going to be guided more towards that
Mhm.
Bible. And there's people out there that want that.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm here.
Mhm.
That's why I'm here.
Mhm.
So,
So, what about people who maybe aren't
Mhm.
actively Christian,
Gotcha.
but they are kind of guided by Christian faith, or maybe they were raised as children, but then kind of got out of that? Would you see somebody who is wanting to get back into
Absolutely.
that? Or, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see atheists. I mean, I
Oh,
don't care.
okay.
Anybody can come see me.
Uh-huh.
Just that when they go to my website and read what my principles are, knowing that this is the foundation I come from.
Mhm.
So if they're coming to me knowing my foundation, then they're looking for something.
Mhm.
And if they're looking for what I say, this is what I offer, then come on.
Right.
I'd be more than happy. And,
Right.
and not everyone I see in my practice is a practicing Christian. They're not. But they're interested in those guidelines, those
Mhm.
principles, and because I'm not going to vary from them. They
Mhm.
know that, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So they're like, well, I want to do A, B, C, or D. I'm like, well, certainly you have that choice to do that, but biblically, let's take a look at that. You know, I'm always going to go back to biblical principles. And if people don't want that, then they shouldn't see me.
Right.
You know, that's
Right.
I'm not for them.
Right.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
That's absolutely fine.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think that's great. I think it's great that there are different therapists for different populations, and I also think it's really great that you put that out there,
Yes.
because I think that sometimes people go into counseling and they're not. It's just kind of vague
Yeah.
about who we are and what we offer, and then it just becomes not a good fit, or
Right.
you
Well, I
know.
think it creates confusion, and I think it's very important to be very upfront about what you stand for and what you
Mhm.
believe in and what you offer. And that
Mhm.
way somebody isn't coming in expecting something different than what I have to offer.
Right.
You know, I'm not here to Bible beat my clients. I don't beat anybody down. I'm not judgmental. But I do have a standard. And for me to go outside of that standard is unethical to myself, and I think unethical to my practice.
Mhm.
So when people come in and they, you know, are looking for that, I think it's a good fit. And I always encourage them to go to my website. It's www.kairoschristiancounseling.com, because I talk about my belief statement, what I believe, what I do, who I am. And they can read that and say, that's a good fit for me, or heck no, I don't want anything to do with that,
Mhm.
which is fine. Yeah.
And I'll put her website up at the end of this, and maybe some pictures of your office too.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what qualifications do you need to have to be in this practice, and are there additional qualifications that you need to be a Christian-based practitioner?
There's not
Okay.
additional for a Christian. I mean, there are universities now that offer mental health counseling with a Christian base to it.
Okay.
That wasn't available, well, it may have been available back in the day, like over 30 years ago when I was in school. But what you need is you need to be a PCC, which is a professional clinical counselor, or an LISW, which is a licensed independent social worker. I'm a professional clinical counselor with a supervisory distinction, which means I can actually supervise other people that are getting their license in this area. But it's a 90-degree master's program. You have to pass a national exam. You have to meet the standards of the state of Ohio in terms of the continuing education units you need every 2 years.
Mhm.
But mainly is you have to be independently licensed, which means I don't have to practice under supervision. I can diagnose independently due to the education and the experience I have.
Mhm.
And if you're going to set up a private practice, and I call it hang up your own shingle.
Right.
The state will not allow you, under your license, to build without, you have to have that distinction. Or if you are a PC, what they call now, which is a dependent license, you have to be practicing under supervision. And many of the insurance panels, and I'm on a few, I was able to get in a few, and I'll talk about those. The PCC I have, I'm allowed to practice independently because I have that distinction.
Right.
I think I just got lost, but anyway.
It's okay. It's a lot, yeah. So basically, the bottom line is she's had all the education that she needs, plus she has continuing education needs that she has to meet every 2 years.
Correct.
And you are part of a board here in Ohio.
Correct.
Called the Ohio Counselor, Social Worker, Marriage and Family Therapist Board.
Right.
And they regulate what we do. So people aren't going to come in and see you and you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Like, she knows what she's doing.
Right, I'm not like, there's some people that are pastoral care counselors and they work in a church, but they're not clinically educated, or, they don't have that kind of background. And that's different, but in order to be paneled in insurance companies, they're looking for at least an independent provider. So, for instance, I am paneled with Anthem, and actually it was a real blessing. I had a client who was in network with Anthem, and they hadn't let anybody in 25 years.
Yeah.
Because they feel they were saturated. They felt they had enough therapists. Well, my client sat on their doorstep, went to Columbus, and wouldn't leave until they let me in.
Really?
I kid you not. So she really advocated, and I got in.
Yeah.
And that just exploded my practice.
I bet.
I mean, exploded it. So that was a real blessing.
I've been talking to Anthem for 4 years.
Yeah. Get a client to advocate. That's about the only way you get in. Because when she told me that, I'm like, thank you, but it's not going to happen. She goes, oh, yes, it will. And my gosh, it did.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. I'm also paneled with CareSource, their Medicaid plan, their Marketplace plan. I'm also paneled with them. I'm paneled with Molina of Ohio. I'm paneled with MedMutual of Ohio. And I think that's all my major insurance companies I'm in right now. I do have self-pay, obviously. Should I talk about my fees?
Yeah,
okay. What I charge, if you're self-pay, I'm $80 an hour for individual, $100 for couples, and then $120 for family. Now, the individual session is a diagnostic assessment. It's an hour and a half, and I charge $120, which is $80 plus $40. And then the rest of them are an hour-long session, just for $80 if you're individual. I'm not at the top of the chain. I know others that charge a lot more for individual, but I'm trying to keep it so I can make a living. This is how I make my living.
Right.
And yet at the same time, make it as manageable as possible for those who don't have insurance. There are some churches, if people go to churches, I have some pastors that will pay the fee.
Oh, they will.
Of some of their parishioners who they refer to me. Not all, or they might pay half, or they might pay 5 sessions. So I'm always encouraging them to talk to, because a lot of times pastors, they don't want to do counseling. They don't feel qualified.
Right.
These issues, the parishioners bring these issues to them, and they kind of like, I don't know what to do with them. So I've reached out to a lot of churches, and I've built some, collaborations there, and they send me their people, and then a lot of times they'll pay for their sessions or every other, and that makes it more affordable.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and they want their parishioners to have help.
They do.
Even if they feel unqualified to offer those services, they're wanting to see their parishioners get better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's great
It's
that
really
there's
nice.
that community there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in your office right now, and normally I ask people if this is what a typical office setting looks like, but this is it.
This is it.
So this is wonderful. It's really comfortable. She has some fluffy cats that are really pretty.
Yes, I've registered them as emotional support animals.
Oh, you did?
I have. Their certificates are on the wall.
Okay.
I have 2 purebred ragdoll cats, and they're very calming, and some of my clients hold them at their sessions. Some don't like cats, and they don't. They're out of my office.
They must
They were
be
here
camera
today.
shy. They were up here
They were
until I
here
turned on the camera, and then they scooted
I
out.
think they went to take a nap. But a lot of times they'll just sit and lay, or they'll sit on the couch, and the clients like that. And so I always ask them, do you care if the cats come in? And 90% of them want them in.
Right.
Plus they'll scratch at the door till I let them in. them, and so I decided I'm going to put them on the registry, and I did.
That's great.
Yeah.
People love animals.
Yes, they do.
I'm not myself much of an animal person, but her cats were really great. They're so pretty.
They're sweet. Yeah.
So, you talked about, I'm looking around your office still, like, oh, this is so nice. You talked about starting and ending a session in prayer.
Yes.
Is that all of your sessions?
Yes, everyone.
Okay.
Now, sometimes a client, I always ask, I said, I would like to start a prayer, and nobody's ever said no. But if a client doesn't want me to pray, I say, well, I'm going to say a prayer for myself. Because, and I will do that silently if they're kind of like, I don't want you to pray.
Right.
Which is fine. But I pray for me because my whole practice is being led by, I believe, is the guidance of the Lord. And so when I pray, I'm asking Him for wisdom, for insight, discernment. How can I help? Give me strength, give me, just kind of a direction to go with this person. And so when I start my sessions out, I'm believing that I've opened my session up to Him and giving Him the opportunity to work through me. And then at the end, I like to end the session with prayer because I like Him to kind of seal the work we've done for the day and bless them and ask that, whatever we've talked about, that they'll be ministered to this week, in preparation for next week. And that's just, that's how I've always done it.
Okay.
And most people, I would say 99% of people want it that way, like it that way.
Yeah.
Because again, they're coming for the Christianity part of clinical counseling. So it really works good.
So what would a typical session look like?
Well, depending on
And people sit here?
Yeah,
Okay.
usually this is my couch. I have a couple clients that want to sit. Well, I used to have a chair, but I have some back problems, so now I'm sitting on a ball.
Okay.
But sometimes if my clients want to sit over there, that's fine. I don't mind. Some want to stretch out. Some like to be under a blanket. I have all kinds of things that go on in here. It's fine. I have women come in, they're nursing babies.
Oh.
I have,
That's great.
I don't mind that as long as we can get, the work done.
Right.
And because people don't always have daycare. And so I try to be as accommodating as possible.
Yeah.
I usually ask my clients, do you want a beverage? I keep a lot of sparkling water or anything, Some people just want, something to drink. It's relaxing. I'm always playing Christian piano music in the background. I find that
Is
very
that what this
soothing.
is right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I play this disc over and over again, but it's just a woman that plays the piano, and it's just very soothing and relaxing. So I want my clients to come in and feel immediately like this is a safe place, and feel comfortable here, because I'm wanting to engage with them and build a relationship. So I think atmosphere is very, very important. So at Christmas is coming up, I'll light this place up.
Oh, you
Christmas
will?
time. Oh yeah, I love it. But then basically we start out with prayer, and then I kind of go into what's been happening in your week, and if we had talked about something the week before, sometimes I assign some homework, like I want you to write a letter to this or whatever. So we'll bring that out. And, I kind of have an idea, but if a client has had a really rough week and they want to take me over here, then that's where we go. Because I feel like the session belongs to the client.
Absolutely.
And so if this is what they need, then that's where we go.
Yeah.
I think it's important not to have too much of an agenda. Plus, I believe sometimes God will take me down, like I'm like, and he'll go, nope, we're going here. You know what I mean? Or sometimes I just get this kind of discernment about something going on, and I'll ask them, like, did you use this week? I'm also a licensed independent chemical dependency counselor. So I do see people that also struggle with addictions.
Okay.
And so, if I get kind of a sense something's up, I'll just ask them and call that out. I have a pretty direct approach, maybe too direct sometimes. But I'm very, I don't care whether I'm liked, I want them to heal. So sometimes my clients may not like that I might be a little bit confrontive,
Right.
but if it's walking them down that healing journey, then I'm doing my job. So, and I tell them that, like, some days you may not like me,
Right.
but if you're healing, if you're showing fruit in your life of healing, then we're doing the right thing. And most of them, yeah, okay, that's what I want. I think most clients don't want to come in and have you just tell them what they want to hear, or
Right.
make them feel like it's okay when it's not.
Right.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
So, and I don't do that.
Well, there's a reason they're coming in,
Right.
and that's because something's
I look at this like when my clients come in, it's time to get to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? We wanna dig in there, go deep, get to the root of things, and see God just do a wonderful healing work in them. And I've just seen some amazing things. I have amazing clients. I've seen clients just come in ashes, and then it's like God birthed ministry out of, you know, the work they've done in here. And it just chokes me up. It's really so rewarding.
I bet.
It really is.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I think, and I've talked about this with some other people too, you know, like people come in and either they come in and they sit down and they want us to say exactly what they need to do.
Right.
Or they don't want that at all.
Right.
You know, they come in, but they don't want to be challenged. They
Right.
don't want to be confronted. And
Absolutely.
I think, you know, I think a good counselor is able to sort of navigate that. But the bottom line is, if you're coming in for mental health services, something's not going right.
Not working.
Something's not working. And, you know, we need to challenge at least a little bit
Right.
to get you out of whatever zone you're in and into a different zone that might work better for you.
Right. And I think it's important, and when people come in, they have different expectations of what therapy is. Like, some people think, like you said, they're supposed to sit down and I'm supposed to tell you what to do, and that's not my job.
No.
You know, I'm going to guide, I'm going to question, I'm going to have you consider this, you know, I'm going to just probe. But the change comes from the work that they do.
Yeah.
It's not my work, it's
No.
their work, and it's their time. And sometimes I'm like, look, it's your time. It's your time. This is your time. It's not my time.
Because it's about them.
It's about them. I want the focus to be about them and what we want to do. And I just think it's making that connection. And, you know, sometimes you don't connect with everyone.
Right.
They come in and it's just not a good fit.
Right.
And that's okay. Like, it never offends me if somebody just, you know, sometimes they'll come once and never come back. That's okay.
Right.
It's okay. Either maybe they didn't like my style, or there just wasn't a good connection, or they weren't comfortable, or they weren't ready. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons.
All kinds.
And you have to be, as a therapist, you have to be okay with that.
Right.
Okay with that.
And I think, too, as a person who's seeking services, to know that, because, and I use this example in my last interview with somebody, you know, it's like maybe also trying to find a doctor, you know.
Sure.
If you go to a doctor and you don't like that doctor, you don't just not go back.
Right.
Most people then will go and find a different doctor.
Correct.
Because the ailment is still there.
That's it.
Or sometimes I use the example of a hairstylist. If you go to a hairstylist and you don't like her
Right.
or him, you don't just never go to a hairstylist. You go find a different hairstylist that you get along with. And that's the same for counselors or
It is.
therapists or social workers. Find somebody who click with.
I like that, yeah, absolutely. There's just a few, if you don't mind mentioning, I want to talk about just some of the things I specialize in.
Yes, I'd love to hear that.
Because, and this is on my website as well, but one of the biggest problems I've seen in the church, or really anywhere, is a real struggle with pornography. And, oh, here comes the cat. And I think this has been, you know, some people might say, oh, it's no big deal.
Pornography?
Pornography. But I've seen that not to be the case.
Absolutely.
And I'm actually working on, I have a group that I currently supervise that meets in a church to help men and their wives when the addiction comes out. And it's located in Middletown, and it's called Stratford Heights Church of God in Middletown. They meet on Tuesday evenings.
Where is that located in Middletown?
It's on Nelson Avenue, right off Real.
Okay.
Okay. And I have, there's a couple that I know, and he has had 7 years clean of pornography, and they run the group, and they use a series called the Conqueror series, which is all about pornography and the wound and how to get free of it. And so she will see the wives, and he will see the husband, or boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever. And they get together and they start working on that issue. For the women, how pornography affects them is so much different than how it affects a man, and the damage that does to their marriage and different things like that. So I do see a lot of men individually for that. And so 99% of the men who come into my office have a pornography problem, which kind of says to me, there's a problem out there.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I
Yeah.
would say, because I work with children,
Mhm.
and a lot of the children I work with, there has been a sexual abuse
Correct.
issue. And I would say over probably the past 5 years, almost all of them have been introduced to pornography
Correct.
at a
Yeah.
very young age. And then, we're getting kids in who are 10, 11 years old, and they're addicted
Absolutely.
to pornography.
I've seen
And
it.
it's totally changed. I mean, it's at such a young age that that's what their arousal,
Correct.
their attraction,
Yep.
everything that's sexual they've been
It's been
taught by,
twisted.
it's twisted, it's been
Yeah.
taught by pornography.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's just going,
It's-
you're going to get a bunch more
Oh, yeah.
adults
Absolutely.
because they're coming out of adolescence and they've
Absolutely.
been watching pornography since they've been 5 sometimes.
Yeah, if you have a smartphone,
Absolutely.
you have access to pornography, and it's free. It's absolutely free,
Yeah.
which I thought cost a bunch of money. That's why I thought, oh, these people have debt. No, they don't need debt.
No.
And I think that the generation that's coming up and the way pornography is twisted and the perversion and how women are viewed, or even men are viewed,
Right.
and because pornography gets, the deeper it goes, it gets more and more sick. And the thing why I consider it an addiction is because it's progressive.
Yes.
And it, that as you go, they've even done studies of a brain on porn and a brain on heroin, and the brain on porn looks worse because it hits all the areas of the brain, whereas with heroin, it's hitting that one pleasure center. And I've talked to many, many men, and they're like, I could get rid of the drugs, but the porn took me 2 to 5 years
Wow.
to really get a handle on it.
Wow.
Really. So it's an epidemic. There's statistics that 65% of all men in any given evangelical church have a problem with pornography, and 50% of all pastors. So this is a problem, and I'm so grateful to the pastor of this church who's allowed my group to come there, and we're going to be expanding it because he decided there's a problem, I know it, and we as the church are going to tackle it. And I love it when pastors start dealing with the day-to-day issues in everyday life. That's what the church is for.
Yes.
So that's exciting.
That is exciting.
And I'm really excited to see where that goes. This couple who runs the group, again, I just supervise them. They're lay people. They're just a couple that's come out of it, and I wanted the group to be based on that you've been there,
Right.
you've gotten out,
Right.
because that's powerful for people that enter the group, that they know, hey, they got through it. How'd you get through it? What did you do? And they have so much knowledge to share with people. So we're real excited. That group's been in operation since June.
Is that do you pay for that group?
No, it's free.
Oh, okay.
It's absolutely free. It's every week. It's an ongoing group, because I think with this, if you start and stop the group, you're going to lose people,
Yeah.
and it's too difficult of a problem
Yes.
to let sit. So we have some fun things planned in that group. And then the other, I deal with, probably like you, with dealing with children, even though I don't deal with children, trauma, all kinds of trauma, sexual abuse, physical, mental, emotional abuse. I deal a lot with dissociative identity disorder, which everyone thinks is so controversial. I don't find it controversial. I find it a blessing in a way someone's able to deal with just horrific trauma without losing their mind.
Right.
So I have probably about 10 clients that I deal with who deal with that. Just came out of very, very extreme trauma, sometimes ritual abuse trauma, and just seeing how we process memories, and I use prayer in those sessions too, and how we're starting to work towards some integration with some people because they've gotten their memories out, and they're healing, and then they want to come back into wholeness, because God's about wholeness. He's not about brokenness. So, but the process is not something you rush. And people want to come and just go, boom, put them back together. Well, you'll kill a person doing that. You're emotionally, you just can't do that. So this is where wisdom and really relying on the Lord to guide me in this. Like sometimes I'll be doing something, he'll say, don't do that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know a textbook for this. I really don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to actually mention this because I think maybe it was about 8 years ago. Jen came in and did a training for a group that we both work at the same community mental health agency, but we didn't work together.
Right.
And I was part of the trauma treatment program, and Jen actually came in and did this training about dissociative identity disorder. And out of all the trainings I've ever done, that one has really stuck with me. And I think about that, and it's definitely changed. It definitely changed the way I observe clients when they come in, just to see, just to have that awareness.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that you came in and did that, and I was wondering if you still did that work.
Yeah, and then my practice, I started getting them. But I also put it on my website because there's people that may not understand it, but there's something that fits when they hear that word, and so they're drawn in. And then, but if I see somebody with very, very early childhood trauma, and it's having, blocks of memory. Now, not everyone's DID who's been through trauma.
Right.
But some people have used that coping mechanism to get through it. So I kind of keep an eyeball out, I kind of keep an antenna up, and I just kind of see how things unfold. And then it eventually, if it's there, and my prayer is always it will be revealed, because we want to deal with truth. Truth makes people free. So if this is what happened to them, we want to get to that, and then work on a plan of bringing them back into wholeness. This particular type of therapy is long-term therapy. This is not 6 months and gone. This might be a couple of years, sometimes maybe 3 years, because the trauma's been so intense, and if there's a lot of parts inside due to that trauma, it takes time. It just takes time. And then I'm working with, so basically it's all kinds of abuses, the DID, depression, anxiety. That's probably the majority of my caseload. I do some couples. A lot of the couples are in a pornography addiction situation, and their relationships are ready to end, and trying to help them not make that choice. I mean, I understand sometimes marriages end. I'm a Christian therapist. I don't promote divorce, but I know sometimes inevitably it happens, and there's reasons why it needs to happen. Like if somebody is being physically abused and harmed in a relationship, I don't how Christian you are, get out of the relationship. Safety is always number one.
Right.
So, but obviously as a Christian therapist, I'm looking for ways to mend and restore a relationship. It's not the same leaving.
Right.
That's not the goal, and I don't think God would have me come from that perspective. That being said, I know there's times people get released from marriages, even Christian, because it just has to happen.
Right.
And but I'm not looking. That's not my first move. My first move is, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at some healing. What can we do? Sometimes I'll split them up, see them individually, because there's too much going on, and when they're together, it's not productive.
Right.
It's just not. So we split them up, try to take some time and bring them back together, because I do believe God is able to heal marriages and restore marriages. I do believe He is able, but we have to allow Him. You have to break. You got to get humble. You've got to be. You've got to come to a point where you stop pointing fingers and say, what have I done, and what do I need to do to change? And when you get them to that point, you can get somewhere. But so I deal a lot with that. I do premarital. There are some pastors that will send me their couples, and they just don't want to do the premarital, so they'll send them to me. I'll do their premarital. And it's just, ever since I left that agency, my life has just exploded. And it was the best thing I ever did. And although I'm grateful for my past experiences, they certainly have built a base to get me to where I am here.
Right.
But this is the best time in my life in terms of what I do, because I just love it.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it. So I'm available now. Right now, my practice, I'll close it and open it back up because I'm full. I'm very full.
Okay.
So if somebody contacts me and I can't accept any clients, I'll take their name, get their information. And when somebody drops out, or maybe they don't see me weekly all the time, then I'll bring somebody else in.
Okay.
So I don't that's why I do accepting new patients. Well, kind of yes, no, maybe. You know what I mean?
You never know.
Because every day
Right.
it's kind of like a shifting sand thing. So I just tell people, or maybe they might have to wait a month out to get an intake, And sometimes that's too long, and you'll lose people that way. But if that's all I have to offer, that's all I have to offer.
Right.
And then if somebody would cancel in the meantime, I might slide them in. I call it my schedule. I call it my demon schedule because I'm like in and out, up and down, trying to, everyone's, all these things switch around, and I don't have a secretary right now, so. I don't think I need one, not yet. I'm getting close. So I think I might need some help. But it's been really, it's just, I love what I do, and I think if you love what you do, you have more to offer because you have passion there, and so, yeah.
So how can people get a hold of you?
There's a couple ways. First of all, main thing is my website. It has my personal cell phone number on there. And also, there's a tab on my website that says new clients, and when you click on it, there's a place to put all your demographics in, and then hit submit. It sends me a confidential, HIPAA-compliant email, and I get that, and then because I'm asking you questions like, what time can you meet, what are your issues, do you have insurance, things like that. I get that email, and that has their cell phone number, and I will call them. And if you go to Psychology Today, I pop up. I am listed under there. I think, are you too?
I am.
Yeah. I've got a lot of referrals from them. That's a good place. So mainly my website, Psychology Today, or just my personal cell, which I can give because it's not that's what I use for my practice.
Sure.
And
I'll put all that stuff up on at the end of this.
Yeah, and just I do word of mouth is probably how I get some clients giving referrals. But yeah, that's probably the main way to get a hold of me.
Okay. So if people are watching and listening, and if they're still a little scared about seeking services, what advice could you give to them?
Well, I think you have to try it out. Put it this way, go once and see how it goes. And if it's a horrible experience or they're scared or they, you know what I mean, you don't have to come back.
Right.
But I want people, if you're desperate enough to come in because you really I need some help, give it a try. And try not, I know I talked about, well, if it doesn't fit, you can leave, but try to give it some time. Nobody is going to hurt you, okay? We just want to help you. We want to find out what's going on. We want to kind of set a treatment plan for you. And I know it's scary, especially for nobody's ever done this before, but I just know that when you commit to this process, and I mean commit to it, your life can change in ways you never thought it could. So I guess I want to offer hope and say, take that first step and see what God can do. And let's work together with that. Because I think I'm in partnership with somebody on their healing journey, because that's all I want. I want people to get better. That's all I think about. Are they getting better? Where are they stuck? Where can we move? So I know it's scary, but it's once you get here, I think most people, if you feel comfortable, and that fear goes away.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
And I'll talk about that fear. Like, is this the first time you've been here? Well, how do you feel about it? I kind of explore that with people. What are your biggest fears? What are you afraid might happen? And we kind of talk those out too. So I want people to feel open to come and say, I'm scared and I don't know what to do.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
Yeah. We'll talk through that.
Well, and I tell people all the time, if you know a little bit about how the brain works, our brains are trying to keep us safe.
Yes.
And so we automatically have a sort of negative tilt to things, this fear-based thing that will keep us right here because I don't know what right here is.
Right.
And if I go here, it might not be too good for me, so I'm going to stay right here. But if you go here, it might be wonderful for you.
I just think that, God has wonderful things in store for us, and sometimes when we take that step, He will meet you where you are, and He'll take you further in that, but we got to make the first step.
Right.
And I just want to encourage people, if you're struggling, if you're looking for a faith-based counselor or somebody that, is going to pray with you and seek God's guidance for your life, then perhaps I could be a fit for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jen, for talking
Thank
to
you.
us today.
Yes. Thank you,
And like I said, I will put the contact information and the website and everything for Kairos Counseling and Jen Wade at the end of this video.